Hey everyone, I'm Matt Harty, National Channel Manager with CNSG, an AppSmart company, and welcome to this edition of ProviderSMART. Joining me today, I have the Vonage team, Greg Franzen and Taylor Costello. Guys, hope you're doing well, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thanks.
Glad to have you on the show and looking forward to learning more about Vonage. But before we get into the Vonage story, would love for you guys both to share a little bit about your respective backgrounds and maybe what brought you to Vonage. Greg, maybe we could start with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Matthew. So my history goes, unfortunately, quite a ways back in the telecom world. I carried a bag as a rep at Paytech, was my first outside sales job. And then I ended up running Baltimore and DC from a direct standpoint, and came to the channel in 2006 because I was tired of losing to channel managers in terms of deals. From then, I stayed there under Windstream, and then started up the channel and MSP program at Sierra Wireless prior to coming to Vonage in 2018. So I've been here for 2 years now. I thought that the UC and contact center world was really where the interesting things were happening in our industry. And to close that out, I'll kick it over to my good friend Taylor.
Sure. So pretty unique story. So prior to telecom, I used to hop around from startup to startup, right? So I would last about a year and a half. My ADD would kick in, I would get bored, and then just essentially flip to the next startup. And Integra Telecom reached out to me to be a sales manager. And I remember this today that, the GM said, hey, young kid, if you're any good at this telecom stuff, you're never going to leave. And, I remember looking at him thinking to myself, no, I average about a year and a half at a company. Well, almost 17 years later, I'm still in telecom. And how I got into Vonage, I came through acquisition. So I was a channel manager at Telesphere, and Vonage acquired us about 6 years ago and have really held multiple job titles within this organization over the last 6 years.
Getting started, if you guys wouldn't mind, if you could share the origin story of Vonage, how you've evolved over time, and the types of solutions that partners should be thinking of to bring to Vonage. I know we mentioned contact center and UCaaS, but can you talk about the entire technology stack that Vonage can offer?
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Great question. So at Vonage, we own the whole stack, and we've been in the voice over IP space for a very long time, going back to 2001 when we had our commercials out there, but jumped into enterprise space in 2014 and really started off with BroadSoft, but then pivoted middle of last year and came into our own stack. So our own stack is our contact center, which is born of a acquisition from New Voice Media, and then our UC platform is a homegrown. Tying those two things together for the end user is our API platform. We are a CRM office tools first organization, similar to the AppSmart brand. We're going to let folks like Microsoft, Salesforce, and ServiceNow have the eyeballs, and we will embed our contact pad within those platforms in order to create the best possible customer experience.
Great. Yeah. And going off of that, I mean, that's key. And that's a third area, your programmable APIs that, maybe partners don't necessarily think of. But, you mentioned Salesforce, Zendesk, there's ServiceNow, there's others. If you could talk about what exactly is a programmable API, how Vonage handles them, and what other kind of top integrations tie into the Vonage solution set.
Yeah, I can do that. And actually, I don't know if it's a great time, but so our API platform is basically lines of code that we own that we can route throughout the world. And there was an opportunity that we had in Pittsburgh with a CNSG managing partner. And it was a supremely, really competitive situation. And the thing that made us win the deal was one question was whether or not their CRM, which was homegrown, had open APIs. So the customer really wanted to be able to dial out of their own CRM and could not ever find a solution in the UC world to do so. And that one question that we asked won us the deal. And I think that the actual cost of that solution was maybe like $10 a month, but it was something that we could do, that we embedded, and us being the single stack provider, it's one bill, one person to work with on your solutions. It really helped us win that deal. And it was $250,000 a year in billing that our friends in one of the CNSG managing partners was able to win for us.
Great. Yeah, that's an awesome success story, and appreciate you sharing that. And speaking of, some of the solutions that Vonage offers, are there any underlying common pain points, or is there specific compelling events you're seeing in the marketplace today that prospects are experiencing that are leading clients and partners to think of Vonage?
Sure, I'll take that. So Matt, similar to what Greg said, I find this space very interesting, right? Obviously we do UC very well, we do CC extremely well, but we got this crazy thing that's called the API. And what we have found and what we're seeing as far as the last 2-year trends is when partners come in and start challenging the end users of, guys, how are you communicating with your end users, right? Customer, how are you communicating with your customers, right? That's setting the agent apart from their competition, right? And it's setting us apart from our competition, right? So what we're seeing is we're almost kind of leading with the API conversation, challenging the end user to think essentially differently on how they're communicating. And if you think about it from a pandemic perspective, this world, we flipped upside down, right? We're all working from home, right? And businesses either had to adapt or fall on their face, right? So we're seeing this trend of businesses adapting. We're seeing this trend of agencies adapting their pitch to set themselves up apart from the competition. So it's really kind of, I don't want to say we're leading with the API, but we're challenging the prospects to think differently about their communication, which is drastically increasing the agent's percentage to close, because then it's not a commodity pitch anymore, if you will.
Right. Absolutely. No, definitely. And going off of that, thinking API first, are there specific verticals or industries that you're seeing, slam dunk wins? I know healthcare and financial seem to be big for you. Anything else?
So I'll take that one. So healthcare is, and the HLS is what we'll call it, the health and life sciences. With the dawn of COVID and this new environment that we're living in, that telemedicine has taken a huge jump in use. Our ability to embed like I said before, a single line of code into an already existing workflow or system allows our end users to embed a video API that we had brought on a couple of years ago into their communication stack without having to forklift anything at all.
That's fantastic. That's great.
I was going to say another example, Matt, is a huge win that you guys had earlier this year, a 400 site, let's call it a funeral home, right? Every UC provider was in there bidding on the services, right? And we kind of came into this funeral home and said, listen, because of the pandemic, people aren't going to go into, the traditional ceremonies of end of life, if you will. And we challenged them to think differently on the API. We said, listen, wouldn't it be cool if you could reach out to the families via text, right? What if I was going to die tomorrow and I knew I was going to die tomorrow and I recorded a video and my wife could blast it off to all the family and all my family and friends post life, if you will, right? So it's kind of a weird subject to talk about, but just another example of that API, that challenging the end user to think differently is the reason why we're winning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that begins, with discovery and getting the right Vonage resources, asking the right questions about what needs to be integrated into your contact center and your unified communications platform. And talking about discovery specifically, do you have any recommendations of what kind of questions or qualifying items that partners should be addressing with their clients for initial discovery?
Sure, I can take that. Obviously, we look at the channel as we're an extension of you guys, right? So we're a big fan of, hey partner, reach out to our local channel manager, and that channel manager is really how I look at it as the quarterback, right? He or she's gonna align the sales engineers, the enterprise reps, everyone behind the scenes, and we're gonna strategize together, right? Because again, this is a very commoditized space, right? And if we get multiple brains working together, we're gonna come up with a best practice on how to really engage that prospect, so we see the closing percentage skyrocket.
And a couple takeaways that I'd really like for the CNSG and AppSmart community to take away from this podcast, call it, is if they're CRM focused. So are you heavily reliant on Salesforce, ServiceNow, or even Microsoft? Our Teams integration is excellent. Our ServiceNow integration is out of this world, as well as Salesforce. So if you're CRM focused and those tools on your PC, in the cloud, wherever they live, are important to your day-to-day operations, it's probably worth a conversation with Vonage.
Yeah, partners keep that in mind. And, as Taylor and Greg have mentioned, you can reach out to your dedicated Vonage channel manager. You can reach out to your CNSG team, and we'll help you qualify and quote these opportunities and move them along the funnel. And, the more we get the team involved, the higher the chance of the close, and we'll get it going. Another area of strong differentiation and where the Vonage team can support us is around solutions engineering. You kind of talk about some of the resources that we have available to our partners through Vonage throughout the discovery process.
At Vonage and at CNSG, actually, as well as AppSmart, we've identified both parties as national strategic partners of ours. Sorry. So with that comes a dedicated partner SE team, as well as for each deal, you get a SE that works with your RCM and direct sales folks in the field. So from a overarching support structure, you have my team with Taylor and our partner SE group that help enable guys like David Hopper on how our solutions work. And then in the field, we also have an SE group, as well as our regional channel managers, throughout the country, to help you guys win deals as well.
Yeah, so team, we're approaching, the final quarter of 2020. What does Vonage have in store for the channel?
I will say, from a spiff perspective, we're spiffing like crazy. So my advice is reach out to your local channel managers. They're going to be able to tell you all the cool things that we're doing. Some of these spiffs that I've seen go around, Greg, I probably shouldn't say this on camera. I kind of question why, I'm still wearing the Vonage polo and not the agency polo. So my advice is reach out to your channel manager, and he or she can disclose our crazy spiffs that we got going on fourth quarter.
Great. Greg, anything to add?
We want to win with you. The fourth quarter is very important for all of us. There's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of customers out there that are in need of cloud services like we have. Use your resources at Vonage and help us help you win.
Absolutely. All right. Well, partners, all the partners out there, be sure to check out any of the resources that we mentioned, and feel free to reach out to your Vonage channel manager or your CNSG rep, and we'll be sure to get these opportunities flowing for you. And I think with that, our time has come to an end. But thanks to all the partners out there for listening and tuning in to this edition. And thanks, Greg and Taylor, for joining us. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Matthew. Thank you, CNSG, and go get them, Tigers.